Today we're tackling, well, a really difficult and dark subject. We're diving deep into the huge amount of documentation surrounding Jeffrey Lionel Dahmer, the man known as the Milwaukee Cannibal.
Yeah, this is a look into the public record. It's a massive chronological profile, really. It covers his whole life, his 17 known murders between 78 and 91, the patterns, the system failures.
Right, and the legal battles, the psychology debates after he was caught.
Exactly. And our goal here for you listening is really just to provide a structured, factual look. We're using police reports, court transcripts, psychological evaluations, basically everything that's documented.
We want to understand how someone goes from, a troubled kid to committing these horrific acts, necrophilia, cannibalism, keeping body parts.
Brills, skeletons, yeah.
Yeah.
The idea is to map out those key moments. Where did things go irrecoverably wrong? And just as important, where did the system, the safety nets, just completely fail?
Yeah, this isn't about shock value. It's about understanding the facts from this really dark chapter, especially that shift, right? From the early, almost messy killings to the later, very methodical, horrifying rituals.
That progression is absolutely central. The records clearly show him moving from maybe panic in the first killing to this incredibly controlled, calculated system. Victims became, well, objects, material for that altar he planned.
An altar, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
And the preservation attempts, keeping skulls, skeletons, it shows this deep obsession with what, ownership?
Permanence.
I think that's exactly it. Ownership, control, permanence. And it just escalated with every single murder he got away with.
Okay, so to really get into this, we have to start at the beginning. Milwaukee, 1960. His dad, Lionel, was a chemistry student then, later a chemist. His mom, Joyce, a teletype instructor.
Right. Mixed background, German, Welsh, Norwegian, Irish. But the family environment, it sounds unstable right from the start.
How so? The records conflict a bit, don't they? They do, which is interesting itself. Some suggest he didn't get enough attention, maybe emotional neglect. But others, including Lionel's own book, say Joyce could be doting, but unpredictably so. She was described as tense, a hypochondriac, suffered from depression.
Which led to constant fighting between the parents.
Constant, bitter arguments. And Joyce even attempted suicide. There's documentation of that.
Yeah, I saw that. An overdose.
Exactly. Equinil. It's a type of tranquilizer. This was before Jeffrey was even a teenager. He himself recalled feeling this unsure solidity of the family from a really young age, like the ground was always shifting.
Then there's this documented change around age 4 after surgery.
A double hernia surgery. Before that, descriptions are like energetic and happy. Afterwards, he apparently became subdued, timid. Now, you can't draw a direct causal line, obviously, but
It coincides with something else starting.
it does, this fascination with death. And it started, oddly enough, because of his father.
Right, the animal bones under the house.
Lionel was clearing them out, and Jeffrey saw it. He later said he was oddly thrilled by the sound of the bones. He called them his fiddlesticks. It wasn't just curiosity. It seems like it was a deeper, emotional reaction.
And Lionel, being a scientist, he didn't see danger signs.
He saw scientific interest. So when young Jeffrey started collecting roadkill chipmunks, squirrels, and taking them to this little hut in the woods to dissect.
Lionel actually showed him how to preserve the bones.
Yeah, how to bleach them, preserve them safely. He thought it was just a science project. Jeffrey, though, he was already preserving things in formaldehyde, putting skulls on little crosses he made. It's this really disturbing mix of, scientific detachment learned from his dad and this art-developing dark ritual.
Then adolescence hits. High school. The drinking starts.
Heavily. By age 14, at Revere High School, he was drinking a lot, hiding it. He called alcohol my medicine. He was an outcast, pretty isolated.
And the fantasies start to take a specific shape.
Very specific. Sexual fantasies, always about domination, control, and dissection, focused on a submissive male partner, specifically the chest and torso.
And it wasn't just fantasy. There was an attempt, wasn't there? Before Hicks.
Correct. Around 16, he actually hid, armed with a baseball bat, waiting for this male jogger he found attractive. The plan was to attack him, subdue him.
But the jogger didn't show up.
Didn't show up that day. But the intent was there. He'd crossed a line mentally from animals to humans as potential objects for this control. And around the same time, he's doing those weird, doing a Dahmer pranks in school.
Oh, right. The bleeding, pretending to have seizures.
Yeah, faking cerebral palsy, just bizarre attention-seeking stuff, often to get money for alcohol. It's this strange combination of hidden violent urges and this disruptive public behavior.
And the final piece, that early instability. The parents' divorce.
Bitter divorce, finalized July 1978. Joyce moves away to Wisconsin with the younger brother David, and that leaves Jeffrey, just turned 18, graduated high school, completely alone in the family house in Ohio.
A vacuum.
A total vacuum. And into that vacuum, just weeks before the divorce was final, comes the first murder. Stephen Hicks, June 18th, 1978.
Tell us about that. Hicks was just hitchhiking.
Yeah, 18 years old, trying to get to a rock concert. Dahmer picks him up, offers him beer, lures him back to the empty house. They drink for hours. Hicks wants to leave.
And Dahmer couldn't let him.
Couldn't let the object of control walk away. He hit him from behind, twice, with a 10-pound dumbbell, then strangled him with the bar of the dumbbell, dragged the body to the basement. The records say he masturbated over the corpse then.
And the disposal, it wasn't panicked.
Not at all. It was methodical, calculated. Over the next few weeks, he dissected the body, dissolved the flesh in acid, crushed the bones with a sledgehammer, scattered the fragments in the woods behind the house, threw the tools and Hicks's stuff in the river.
So right from the first one, there's dismemberment, chemical disposal.
It's like an instant, improvised blueprint for how he'd operate later, chillingly calculated for a first kill.
So after Hicks, the next decade or so seems like just aimless drifting, lots of failure.
A lot of failure, yeah. And constant, heavy alcohol abuse fueling it. He tried Ohio State University, lasted one term. His GPA was 0.45?
0.45 out of 4.0. Wow.
Total academic wipeout, purely down to drinking. Then he tried the Army in '79, combat medic in West Germany.
How did that go?
Started, average soldier. But the drinking just took over again, intoxicated pretty much daily. By early '81, he got an honorable discharge, but for unsuitability. Basically, he couldn't function. There were also some later allegations, unproven, about sexual assault against other soldiers while he was there. He denied them.
So he comes back to Ohio, and his dad tries again to find some structure for him.
Lionel was desperate. He sends him to live with his own mother, Catherine Dahmer, Jeffrey's grandmother, in West Allis, Wisconsin. This is late 1981. The hope was her stability might, rub off on him.
Did it work? Even temporarily?
It seemed to, for a bit. She provided some structure. He got a job as a phlebotomist, lasted about 10 months.
Handling blood needles, given his later interests.
Yeah, the symbolism isn't lost there, but he lost that job too. Then he was unemployed for over 2 years, just living off his grandmother. And the arrests started happening.
The indecent exposure one, right, at the State Fair Park.
August '82, exposed himself in front of 25 people, got convicted of disorderly conduct. It shows that that exhibitionist streak again, that boundary pushing.
But the really significant turn seems to come after he gets the job at the Ambrosia Chocolate Factory in '85.
That's right. He's working again, stable job. And then he gets propositioned, apparently, in a public library. And that encounter, the record suggests, just reignited those teenage fantasies. The control, the dominance.
So he starts going to gay bars, bathhouses.
Yes, but he found the actual encounters unsatisfying because his partners were conscious, they moved, they had agency. He didn't have the total passive control he craved.
Which leads to a really disturbing psychological shift.
Absolutely crucial point. He consciously decided, he confessed this later, he trained myself to view people as objects of pleasure instead of people. He actively worked to dehumanize potential partners in his mind.
And that mental shift allows him to start the drugging.
Exactly. June 1986 is when the pattern starts. He starts lacing drinks, usually liquor, with sedatives, triazolam, temazepam.
How did he get those?
He basically scammed doctors, said he needed sleeping pills to cope with shift work at the factory, went to different doctors, got multiple prescriptions. The pills were key because they made the victims unconscious, totally submissive, exactly the state he wanted.
He drugged about a dozen men this way.
Roughly, yeah. Until he actually got kicked out of a bathhouse for it. He had to start using hotel rooms. And then he considered something even more extreme.
The graveyard plan.
Yeah, he seriously considered digging up a recently buried corpse to fulfill this need for a completely inanimate, controllable body. He only gave up because, apparently, the ground was too hard to dig in the local cemeteries. It shows how desperate that compulsion was becoming.
It's just incredible. Then comes another arrest. September '86. Lewd behavior with 2 young boys.
12-year-old boys, near the Kinnickinnic River. This time it leads to probation, a year, and court-ordered counseling. A chance for intervention.
An intervention that completely failed.
Utterly. Because while he's on probation, living with his grandmother, November 1987, he commits the second murder, Stephen Tuomi. And this one he claimed was different.
The blackout.
He met Tuomi, who was 25, visiting from Michigan, at a bar. took him to the Ambassador Hotel. Dahmer always maintained he had zero memory of the killing itself. Just woke up the next morning, Tormy dead underneath him, chest crushed, badly bruised. Dahmer had bruises on his own arms and hands.
Suggesting extreme violence, whether he remembered it or not.
Definitely. And while he claimed amnesia about the act, his actions after finding the body were anything but amnesiac, very methodical.
He took the body back to his grandmother's house.
Smuggled it back in a suitcase, kept the body there for a week before dismembering it in the basement. The audacity is staggering.
And the process was similar to Hicks, but with an added element.
Same basic process. Severed limbs, filleted flesh, crushed bones with a sledgehammer, disposed in the trash. But this time he tried to keep the skull. Boiled it in Soilax, that's an industrial cleaner, and bleach, trying to get that permanent trophy.
But it didn't work.
Made the skull too brittle, it crumbled, so he had to pulverize it like the bones. But the attempt is key. The desire for the permanent trophy is now active.
And Twomey's murder was the point, he said, where he stopped trying to fight the urges.
That's what he claimed, the point of no return. And he proved it by killing 2 more victims right there in his grandmother's house. James Dox Tater, who was only 14.
14?
Yes, a Native American boy involved in prostitution. And Richard Guerrero, who was 22. Same method. Drugging, strangulation, and again, he tried to preserve their skulls. Failed, pulverized them.
How did his grandmother not notice?
Yeah.
Or did she?
She eventually did notice things. The constant drinking, him bringing men home late at night, and crucially, foul smells coming from the basement and the garage. In September 1988, she finally asked him to move out.
But right after that, before he even moves, comes arguably the biggest systemic failure before the final apartment horrors. The arrest involving Conorax into Sumphone's older brother.
This is just infuriating when you look back. September 88 again, he's arrested for drugging and sexually fondling a 13-year-old Laram boy. The family had recently immigrated.
And there were psychological evaluations done for this case, right, before the murders were known.
Yes, and they flagged major issues: deep alienation, impulsivity. He was actually diagnosed then with schizoid personality disorder, that detachment from relationships, restricted emotions, red flags everywhere.
Yet, for sexually assaulting a child, with those psych reports, what was the sentence?
Convicted January 89, second-degree sexual assault, enticing a child. He got 5 years probation, 1 year work release. He had to register as a sex offender, attend therapy, but he didn't serve any significant jail time up front.
Which meant he was free.
Free enough. And between the conviction in January 89 and the actual sentencing hearing a few months later, he killed again. His 5th victim, Anthony Sears.
And Sears marks another escalation.
A huge one. This is where the trophy collection becomes permanent. Dahmer described Sears, a 24-year-old model, as exceptionally attractive. After drugging and strangling him, he didn't just try to keep the skull. He successfully preserved Sears's head and genitals in acetone, kept them in a box.
Where did he keep them?
First, in his locker at the chocolate factory. Then, when he moved out of his grandmother's, he took them with him. This wasn't experimentation anymore. This was successful, permanent retention of body parts. While on probation for child molestation, the system just completely missed him.
Okay, so May 1990, he moves into apartment 213 on North 25th Street, the infamous Oxford Apartments. Cheap rent, close to work.
And he brings the box with Anthony Sears' preserved head and genitals with him. That apartment immediately becomes his workshop, his killing ground.
And the frequency just skyrockets.
Immediately. Within a week of moving in, he kills Raymond Smith, victim number 6. The ritual becomes more elaborate here. He photographed Smith nude, dismembered the body, boiled it with Soilax to strip the flesh.
Like he tried with Twomey's skull.
Exactly, but this time it worked. He successfully preserved Smith's skull, spray-painted it, and kept it. The collection begins in earnest.
Did he ever explain why he kept these things? Beyond just control?
He did in his confession. He said, it was my way of remembering their appearance, their physical beauty, and if I couldn't keep them there with me whole, I at least could keep their skeletons. It was about preserving the aesthetic, owning the beauty permanently.
And this is also when the cannibalism starts.
Yeah.
Documented cannibalism.
Yes. Ernest Miller, September 1990. This killing is a turning point into really deep ritual. He apparently only had 2 sleeping pills left, so Miller woke up. Dahmer had to ensure death quickly, so he slashed Miller's carotid artery. Photographed the body, dismembered it. But this time, he specifically saved parts for consumption: the heart, liver, biceps, pieces of thigh muscle. Wrapped them, put them in the freezer. He later said he ate them. He also kept Miller's skull, painted it, coated it with enamel. and planned to keep the entire skeleton.
The details about the eating attempts are grim.
Extremely. He talked about making a meat tenderizer because he found the thigh muscle of one victim so tough he could hardly chew it. It shows this bizarre dedication. It's not just killing, it's this whole horrifying process of consumption, preservation, incorporation.
Then he tries to take it even further. Not just killing, preserving, or consuming, but creating a permanent living slave.
The drilling technique. This was his attempt to create, essentially, a zombie. A completely submissive partner who would obey his every command permanently.
How did he try to do that?
April 1991, Errol Lindsay. He drilled a hole into Lindsay's skull while he was sedated and injected hydrochloric acid directly into the brain. He hoped it would destroy the personality, the will, but leave the body functional.
And it failed.
Horribly. Lindsay woke up, disoriented, complaining of a headache, asking what time it was. Dahmer realized it hadn't worked and had to strangle him to finish the job.
But he tried it again, knowing it failed.
That's what's so chilling about the power of the compulsion. Just a month later, May 1991, Tony Hughes. Hughes was deaf. Dahmer lured him using written notes. He tried the exact same acid injection technique.
What happened that time?
This time, the acid injection itself was fatal. So it killed Hughes, but it didn't achieve the zombie state Dahmer wanted. And disturbingly, he just left Hughes's body decomposing on his bedroom floor for 3 days before dismembering it. The compulsion to try the experiment seems stronger than his previous methodical neatness.
This rapid escalation, the failed experiments, it leads directly into the most infamous system failure. Conorak and the Sanfo, May 27, 1991.
Conorak, only 14 years old, and unbelievably, the younger brother of the boy Dahmer had been convicted of molesting back in '88.
The system put him on probation for molesting the older brother, and then he murders the younger brother.
It's devastating. Dahmer lured Conorak to the apartment, drugged him, drilled a hole, and injected acid into his skull, just like with Lindsay and Hughes. Then he actually left the apartment briefly.
And when he came back?
Conorak had somehow stumbled outside. He was naked, clearly drugged, disoriented, trying to speak in Lao, his native language. 3 young women, Sandra Smith, Tina Spivey, Nicole Childress, found him and were trying to help him.
They called the police.
Yes. Officers Belshazzak and Gabrish arrived. Dahmer showed up, too, very calmly, and spun a completely false story.
What did he tell them?
He said Conorak was 19, his adult lover, they'd had a fight, and Conorak had drunk too much Jack Daniels. Just a domestic spat.
And the women who found him, they knew this wasn't right.
They argued vehemently. They told the police the boy was obviously a minor, wasn't speaking English, was bleeding from his rectum, seemed terrified. They begged the officers not to leave him with Dahmer.
How did the officers react to these witnesses?
They dismissed them completely, told them to butt out, shut the hell up. Then they actually went into Dahmer's apartment with him and the boy.
What did they see inside?
They saw Polaroid photos lying around, photos Dahmer had taken of previous victims, possibly in bondage poses. Officer Gabrish smelled that horrific odor. The smell of Tony Hughes's decomposing body was still lingering in the bedroom.
So they see suspicious photos, smell decomposition, have witnesses screaming about assault and the victim being a child. And they still
bought Dahmer's story. They helped him get the boy back inside, told Dahmer to take good care of him, and left. They radioed it in as a domestic dispute. One officer was even recorded on the radio saying his partner needed to get deloused because of the state of the apartment.
It's just unbelievable negligence, and it highlighted massive issues in Milwaukee, right? Racial tensions.
Huge issues. Conorak was Southeast Asian. The witnesses were black women in a predominantly black neighborhood. The officers were white. It became a symbol of police indifference, possibly bias towards minority communities.
And the consequence for Conorak was immediate and fatal.
Dahmer confessed later. As soon as the police left, he injected a second fatal dose of acid into Conorak's brain. That police failure directly cost Conorak his life and allowed Dahmer to kill 5 more men.
5 more in just the next 2 months. July 1991 was insane.
He said he felt completely swept along, just killing constantly. Jeremiah Weinberger, July 5th. He tried injecting boiling water into the skull this time instead of acid, also fatal.
Then Oliver Lacey.
July 15th, strangled, dismembered. Dahmer kept his head and heart in the refrigerator. He was saving Lacey's entire skeleton for the altar project.
And the last one.
Joseph Breithoff, July 19th, killed him, left the body for 2 days. It started attracting maggots. Then he decapitated him. Breithoff's torso ended up being one of the 3 found dissolving in that big blue acid drum.
So it wasn't the police finally figuring it out. The end came because a victim escaped. Tracy Edwards, July 22, 1991.
Edwards was lured there, promised $100 and some beer, but as soon as he got inside apartment 213, he knew something was terribly wrong.
What tipped him off?
The smell, first off. Just overpowering, foul. Then he saw boxes of hydrochloric acid, weird posters of naked men, and Dahmer was watching The Exorcist III on video.
And then Dahmer made his move.
Yeah. He managed to get one handcuff onto Edwards' wrist, pulled out a big knife about 9 inches long, and then he told Edwards his plan. He was going to eat his heart.
Terrifying. How did Edwards get away?
Pure adrenaline and quick thinking. He pretended to go along with it for a moment, waited until Dahmer was slightly distracted, then punched him hard and bolted for the door, which luckily wasn't locked. He ran out with the handcuffs still dangling from his wrist.
Flagged down police.
Found a patrol car almost immediately. Officers Roth and Mueller, Edwards, still cuffed, frantically told them what happened, led them back to the apartment building.
Was Dahmer still there?
Yes. When the officers got to the apartment door, Dahmer was inside, apparently trying to lock the other cuff onto himself. They went in.
How did they go from assault victim with a handcuff to realizing what this place was?
Officer Mueller was looking for the key to the handcuffs. He opened a bedside table drawer, and instead of a key, he found those Polaroids, dozens of them.
The photos Dahmer took of his victims.
Exactly. Pictures of dead bodies, dismembered parts, skulls, bodies posed in sexual ways. Mueller looked at them and just knew. He said, "These are for real." Dahmer then tried to resist arrest, but they overpowered him.
And then they started searching properly. The refrigerator.
That was the first major discovery after the photos. Officer Mueller opened it and found a severed human head just sitting on the shelf, a black male's head. That's when they knew this was beyond anything they imagined. The medical examiner later said it was like dismantling a museum, not a crime scene.
Give us the scale of what they found in there. The inventory is just horrific.
It's staggering. 4 severed heads in the kitchen area, 7 human skulls found elsewhere, some bleached, some painted, in the freezer. 2 human hearts, other organs, pieces of human flesh, 2 full skeletons being assembled, preserved genitals, and that 57-gallon blue drum in the corner.
With the acid.
Containing 3 human torsos in the process of dissolving. Plus, crucially, those 74 Polaroid photos documenting everything.
Those photos were key evidence, weren't they? Undermining any claim of blackout or insanity.
Absolutely devastating for the defense later. They showed him pausing during the acts, posing the bodies, documenting his work. Clear evidence of planning, memory control, not impulsive chaos.
And after the arrest, Dahmer didn't lawyer up immediately.
No, he waived his right to an attorney right away. He seemed almost relieved. He told Detective Patrick Kennedy he wanted to confess, to put an end to it. He said something like, "I created this horror. It only makes sense. I do everything to put an end to it."
Led to a massive confession.
Over 60 hours of interviews produced a 178-page confession detailing all 16 murders in Wisconsin, plus admitting to the Stephen Hicks murder back in Ohio from 1978.
And he detailed the ultimate plan, too. The altar.
Yes, that was the end goal. He wanted to build this private shrine in his living room, a black table covered with a black curtain. On it, he planned to display 7 of the skulls he'd collected, plus the 2 full skeletons he was preserving, Miller's and Lacey's. He called it a place for meditation where he could draw power from them.
Just unreal.
Yeah.
And the cannibalism motive, it changed over time.
He said initially it was just curiosity, but later it became something deeper. He felt, in his words, "It made me feel they were even more a permanent part of me, a way to fully possess and absorb them."
So the trial starts January 92. He pleads guilty to the 15 Wisconsin murders, but guilty and insane. So the whole trial became about his mental state.
Exactly. Wisconsin law puts the burden on the defense to prove insanity. Could his mental disorders, and he had several diagnoses floated, borderline personality, schizotypal, psychotic disorder, definitely necrophilia, could they have prevented him from understanding his actions were wrong or from controlling them?
What were the core defense argument?
That he was fundamentally driven by these uncontrollable obsessions, especially the necrophilia. Dr. Fred Berlin, a key defense expert, argued it was a sickness he discovered, not chose. That he was essentially a killing machine, compelled by his disorder.
So not responsible because the machine was broken.
That was the idea, but the prosecution countered strongly. Their main expert, forensic psychiatrist Dr. Park Dietz, argued Dahmer was legally sane. He called him calculating and cunning.
What was Dietz's key point?
It was brilliant, really. Dietz pointed out that Dahmer admitted he often drank alcohol before committing the murders, specifically to overcome his inhibition against killing.
Meaning he had an inhibition, he knew it was wrong.
Precisely. If the compulsion was truly irresistible, Dietz argued, he wouldn't need alcohol to numb his conscience or his fear. The very act of using alcohol to enable the killing proved he understood the wrongness and was making a calculated choice to overcome that understanding. Dietz also used the Polaroids as evidence of planning, and Dahmer's own statements about identifying with villains like the killer in Exorcist III or Darth Vader.
And the jury bought the prosecution's argument.
They did. They found him legally sane for each of the 15 murders. Since Wisconsin doesn't have the death penalty, the only sentence was life imprisonment. He got 15 consecutive life terms, adding up to 941 years. Later, Ohio added another life term for the Hicks murder.
So Dahmer goes to prison, Columbia Correctional Institution, initially in solitary.
Yes, for his own safety, for about the first year. But then he actually requested to be moved into a less secure unit. He ended up on a work detail, cleaning toilets, the gym.
And there was a religious conversion during this time.
Apparently quite a serious one. He became a born-again Christian, read a lot of creationist literature. He was even baptized in the prison whirlpool in May 1994 by a minister named Roy Ratcliffe, who visited him regularly.
But did that change his underlying mental state? He still seemed conflicted.
Deeply. He reportedly questioned if continuing to live was sinning against God. He told his mother, Joyce, basically, I don't care if something happens to me. He seemed almost resigned to, or even welcoming of, death.
And there had already been an attempt on his life in prison.
Yeah, just a few months before his death. July 1994, another inmate tried to cut his throat with a shiv made from a razor and a toothbrush, only caused superficial wounds, though.
But the fatal attack came later that year, November 28, 1994.
He was on his cleaning duty in the prison gym showers with two other inmates, Jesse Anderson and Christopher Scarver. Scarver attacked both Dahmer and Anderson with a heavy metal bar he'd taken off some weight equipment.
Both Dahmer and Anderson were killed.
Yes. Scarver later claimed, God told me to do it. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia. But there were strong suggestions of a racial motive, too.
How so?
Scarver was black and reportedly held racist views against white people. Dahmer's victims were predominantly minorities, which caused immense anger. And Jesse Anderson, the other man killed, had notoriously tried to frame two black men for murdering his own wife. So Scarver might have seen himself as an avenger.
How did people react to Dahmer's death? The families of the victims?
It was really mixed. Dahmer's mother was furious, felt the prison failed to protect him. Some victims' families expressed relief, even celebrated, but others found no peace in it. Catherine Lacey, Oliver Lacey's mother, had this incredibly poignant quote, "The hurt is worse now because he's not suffering like we are."
His death didn't end the impact on Milwaukee, obviously.
Not at all. The Conorak synthesome case left deep scars, exposed huge distrust between the community and the police, especially around race. As a symbolic gesture, the Oxford Apartments building was completely torn down in November '92. It's just an empty lot now.
And what happened to all the stuff inside? The tools, the freezer, the photos?
That caused huge controversy. There was a plan to auction it all off. Public outcry was massive. People didn't want these horrific items becoming collector's pieces. So a local group, Milwaukee Civic Pride, raised money. A big chunk came from a philanthropist named Joseph Zilber. They bought everything.
And destroyed it.
Yes. All the artifacts were purchased specifically to be destroyed. They were taken to a landfill in Illinois and buried. A deliberate act to erase them.
What about his family, his parents?
Lionel, his father, and Joyce, his mother, who went by Joyce Flynn after the divorce, they never changed their names. They both maintained contact with him in prison until his death. Lionel even wrote that book, A Father's Story, trying to understand what happened.
But his brother, David,
completely disappeared, changed his name legally, cut off all ties, lives completely anonymously, wants absolutely no connection to the Dahmer name or legacy. Understandable, really.
So we've traced this whole horrifying story. The quiet kid becoming this meticulous monster, the rituals, the cannibalism, the absolute failure of the system in the Conorak case.
And it really comes back to that central tension revealed in the trial, doesn't it? Was he a killing machine driven by uncontrollable urges, as the defense argued? Or was he the calculating and cunning predator the prosecution described, who knew right from wrong but chose evil?
Both sides had compelling evidence based on his own actions and words.
Exactly. The necrophilia was undeniable, but so is the planning, the luring, the use of alcohol to overcome inhibition, the preservation attempts, the altar plan.
It leaves you thinking about his own words after capture. I created this horror, and it only makes sense I do everything to put an end to it. It sounds like accountability. But then you have the psychiatric diagnoses. So the final thought for you, listening to this deep dive, is maybe wrestling with that line. Where do we draw it between profound mental illness, compulsion, and calculated deliberate cruelty? The Dahmer case forces us to confront that ambiguity head-on.